We're officially in crunch time as presidential candidates make their final pitch to voters, with the Iowa caucuses happening next week and the New Hampshire primaries happening in 2 weeks. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back in with a new video, and today it is time to talk about the 2024 Republican presidential primary. As many of you know, we are less than a week from the Iowa caucuses. Yeah, that's right. In under a week, it's finally here, the first caucus of 2024. And not only that, the following week, the New Hampshire primary will be here. So in back-to-back weeks, we get arguably the most important caucus in America, Iowa, and arguably the most important primary, New Hampshire. So you know what that means? We're officially in crunch time. Republican presidential candidates are trying one last barnstorm of New Hampshire, Iowa, whatever, as people like Ron DeSantis is trying to gain some semblance of momentum. Nikki Haley's trying to continue her quote-unquote momentum. Ramaswamy is trying to do, I don't really know what he's doing. Chris Christie is still running, but of course, Trump is a clear frontrunner. So before we continue today's video, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Guys, just for $1 a month, you can join Real American. This is the best way to support the daily content that we all know and love. So I hope and recommend you join the channel today. Now let me be clear. Trump is the clear frontrunner. I mean, let's face it. Trump is going to win Iowa by quite a bit. But it's still fascinating to look at what the campaigns are doing and what the current polling has for Iowa and New Hampshire. And this article is a bit old. It's from January 2nd. But I think it does a good enough job explaining, at least, the current state of affairs for the primary. Because, yeah, it's certainly been in all honesty, a very boring primary. Because there really hasn't been that much change outside of the battle for second place between Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. But either way, let's get into it. After a long, mostly uneventful, invisible primary, the actual voting will finally get underway in the Republican presidential primary in less than 2 weeks. The Iowa Republican caucuses will take place on Monday, January 15th, while the New Hampshire primary is on Tuesday, January 23rd. That means, by the end of the month, the presidential race could look extremely different. Some candidates are likely to drop out after the poor showing, while others could suddenly become serious threats to win if they exceed expectations, which I disagree with because, well, I'm just scrolling down a little bit. Look at this. Trump's up by, 30 in the state of Iowa? Which might be a bit old. It might be more now, but the only one that I could think gains any kind of real momentum is potentially Ramaswamy. Because let's face it, all right, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, I think they screwed themselves. They're not going to win either way, but any kind of chance of getting momentum, I think is dead. Because they promised, we're gonna win Iowa, we're gonna have a strong showing. Getting less than 20% is not a strong showing when the frontrunner is at 50%. So, I think only one person could realistically gain momentum. Nikki Haley, I think, is making too many mistakes, but we'll get to that in a second. And most importantly, we'll have actual hard data about whom Republican voters want to be president. So we'll be a lot closer to knowing whether former President Trump really is on a glide path to the GOP nomination, which I think he is. If you're just turning to the primary after a week or a year, no judgment, unplug from politics. Trump is a clear favorite to win both Iowa and New Hampshire, although one of those states looks like a much better bet for him than the other. As of Tuesday morning, Trump was at 50% in 538's average of Iowa, 32 points ahead of his closest competitor. And like I said, I don't see how anybody but Ramaswamy gains momentum. I just don't. Because Haley is banking on taking second place, which may not even happen now. And not only that, she cannot, even if she takes second place, if she's down by 40, she's screwed. She's promising a good performance, and she's been making many mistakes. Ron DeSantis, it's win the caucus, I should say, or be done. Since 2008, no presidential candidate has seen their polls shift in Iowa by more than 12 points in the final month before the caucuses. So it would be pretty surprising if Trump lost Iowa with these kind of numbers. The race to watch in the Hawkeye State is probably the one for second place, which I agree with. So even ABC News is admitting it's over. Trump is going to win the Iowa caucus. There's never been a 30-point swing and a miss in the state of Iowa, let alone in polling, just in general. But DeSimps are claiming it's going to happen. There's going to be a 30-point miss, even though historically, since 2008 at least, there hasn't been a miss that large in the state of Iowa. Right now, that looks like a fight between Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who's polling at 18% on average, and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, who's polling at 16%. According to media tracking firm Ad Impact, as of December 11th, DeSantis and his supporters had outspent Haley and her supporters on advertising the state, $25 million to $21 million, helping to explain that small lead. But as of December 22nd, Haley supporters had $2 million more in fund ad reservations booked in the state, suggesting she may be able to close that spending gap, which, at this point in time in the race, I don't think the spending is going to change much. I have made many videos on this, and I've even talked about it on stream a little bit. Advertising is important. Don't get me wrong. It's important to get your name out there, create a consistent message through advertising. But at some point when you're less than a week away, I don't really think ad reservations are going to do anything. Because everybody knows who Nikki Haley is, at least those are going to vote. Everybody knows who DeSantis is. Everyone knows who Trump is. Hell, everyone knows who Chris Christie or Vivek Ramaswamy are. So I just don't think that the ad reservations are going to change much of anything. DeSantis, though, has the endorsements of Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds and evangelical leader Bob Vander Plaats, and he has been campaigning more actively in Iowa than Haley has. Between September 1st and December 31st, he held 49 campaign events in the state, while Haley held only 35, according to tracking by 538 in ABC News, which there's been some disputes about this number, which I kind of agree with, because DeSantis has not done 49 events in Iowa. He's done far more. He's visited every county, and so has Ramaswamy. He's visited every county twice. And speaking of Ramaswamy, this right here is why I think Ramaswamy has the best shot of overperforming. Yeah, he's pulling at what? In the state of Iowa? Like 5%. But he has been barnstorming the state as of late. This has been outdated. He's doing like 4 or 5 events each day. He's doing major events, mind you. And it's decent-sized crowds, more than Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, which I know crowd sizes don't matter, but Ramaswamy has put everything in the kitchen sink on these campaign events, in particular the last 2 weeks. He stopped all ad funding, at least for now, and it seems like it's working. There's been brand new polling that again, it's not shown here, but it shows Ramaswamy is picking it up a little bit. So, this is what I'm trying to tell people. Ramaswamy has done way more campaign events than Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, hell, even Trump combined in the state. So why do you think Ron DeSantis is going to gain momentum for doing a Grassley, which, if you don't know, that means visiting every single county in the state, when Ramaswamy's done it twice? It just doesn't really add up, and I think that Ramaswamy is actually the one with momentum in the state. Yeah, I think it's Ramaswamy that's picking it up. And plus, it is Iowa caucus, so it's not a traditional primary where you vote and you're done. It's you show up and you debate why you should support, say, Ramaswamy or Ass Hutchinson. As for the other contenders, despite his whopping 192 campaign events in Iowa, businessman Vivek Ramaswamy is currently averaging just 6% in the polls, putting him on track for a 4th place finish. Finally, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie and former Governor Ass Hutchinson seem like they will be non-factors in the Hawkeye state. Christie did not hold a single campaign event there in all of 2023, and Hutchinson has not raised enough money to run a viable campaign. By contrast to New Hampshire, Trump's 18-point lead in the polls is somewhat less commanding. An upset win by Haley, who has recently moved within striking distance of him, isn't out of the question, which I disagree with. Because here's why. Trump is already up by 18 points, and this is a bit outdated, but some of the polls have been, I'm just going to say they're fake. In the state of New Hampshire, I shouldn't say fake, I'm not trying to be dissimp, but some of the polls, they just royally screwed up. There was one poll where they included registered Democrats, which they can't vote in the Republican primary, at least right now. And there's been some polls that have, Trump up by 40 with Republicans, 40 with conservatives, but only up by 3 or whatever. It's like, huh? I know it's a more moderate state, but even then, let's assume Trump's only up by 15. Just be nice to Haley. If Trump wins the state of Iowa by 30, especially if Haley doesn't take second, her quote-unquote surge is going to implode on itself. Because Trump is viable in New Hampshire. It's not like DeSantis where he banked everything on Iowa. Trump is campaigning in both Iowa and New Hampshire, and he's been smart about it. So I have some big questions about some of these polls, because dig into the numbers, you just do basic math and you realize, wait, how could Trump be up this much with conservatives, Republicans, and be losing? It's like, or not losing, just very close. It's really makes you wonder if they're purposely overstating moderates, which it could happen without the Democrat primary, but it's still one of those things where they somehow screwed up and allowed Democrats to vote when they can't. They physically cannot vote in New Hampshire because they're registered Democrats, but hey, I don't know. Recently, Haley's gotten a spate of good news on New Hampshire. On December 12th, she got the coveted endorsement of New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu. As of that day, according to Ad Impact, Haley and pro-Haley outside groups had spent $18 million on advertising in New Hampshire, more than supporters of every other candidate combined. And as of December 22nd, she was planning to spend another $4 million, more than any other candidate. By contrast, DeSantis, who's currently polling at just 8% in New Hampshire, had no future ad spending lined up there. So, yeah. New Hampshire it's not going to be good for DeSantis. He's going to take like 6 or whatever, which was always the problem with the Iowa or bust strategy. If you don't win Iowa, you're done. And well, he's not going to win Iowa. He's going to get embarrassed in the state of New Hampshire. And you look at the campaign events, Ramaswamy has actually done the most events. Again, where's this theory that Nikki Haley has barnstormed the state? Hell, Chris Christie has held more events in the state than Haley. And that's why I'm saying, yeah, she got the endorsement of Chris Sununu, but there's been polls to show that people aren't being swayed by it, so how is she surging? That's what I'm saying, folks. Some of the polls in New Hampshire, again, I'm not being a dissimp, I'm not saying the polls are all fake, but the reputable polls have Trump up by 20 to 30 in the state. And the more questionable ones, the ones that allow Democrats to vote and all that, they have him only up by 4 or 5. So that's what I'm saying. Something in New Hampshire polling this year has definitely been out there, but who knows? Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Thank you so much. Godspeed to all of you.